Welcome in to Payoff Pitch, Action Network's Major League Baseball betting podcast. It might be our last one of the year, the way this thing's going. The Yankees are down 0-3 to the Dodgers in the World Series. The Dodgers lead the Yankees 3-0. Want to make sure I paint the picture both ways for whoever you are rooting for in this series, or if you don't care. Brendan Glasheen joined by Sean Zerillo and BJ Cunningham. We've been with you all World Series long. We're here to break down Game 4 of the World Series. It's tonight in the Bronx at Yankee Stadium. The Dodgers, with this convincing lead, we don't know who's going to start for the Dodgers yet, which is kind of par for the course this postseason with this team. Who knows? They used a bunch of arms last night, all on limited fashion. No one pitched more than 24 pitches. That was Kopech to finish the game. But we'll go from there. Yankees are going to send out Luis Gil, one of the bright spots in their rotation this year, the rookie. As far as the betting line for tonight, the Dodgers are plus 122 in the money line. Yankees minus 144. Total at 8.5, which is, we've been accustomed to that number. Where are we at here, Sean? What do we think for tonight? We'll start with tonight first.
Yeah, bullpen game for the Dodgers. They did, as you mentioned, use a bunch of guys last night. The only guys who have pitched all three games in this series are Michael Kopech, who has legitimately pitched in all three games. I believe 10 to 15 pitches in each of the first two games, 24 last night. And then Alex Vesia and Anthony Banda, they're two lefties who only faced a batter each yesterday. I think Vesia only faced a batter and threw one pitch in game two as well. So of their bullpen, it seems like Michael Kopech would be the arm they maybe might avoid tonight. I don't know. Maybe they'll start him because they started him in their last bullpen game. Ryan Brazier only threw one game in this series, which was yesterday. He threw about 22 pitches. But he seems likeliest to get the start for the Dodgers. I think he started two of their three, or maybe three of their four bullpen games in this postseason. I can't remember how many they've had. He started at least twice. Gave up a run in one of those appearances against the Mets. And then the Dodgers are going to have to figure out the innings behind him or whoever they choose to start. And their three long relievers, Landon Knack, Ben Casparius, and Brent Honeywell. I think of those three, Ben Casparius, who we talked about yesterday, is the likeliest to end up in this game. He's really good stuff. The command can be an issue, so they'll monitor his usage, make sure he's not walking the ballpark if they're going to leave him in. And that is the benefit that both teams, or at least the Dodgers, going to have throwing a bullpen game, is pulling their relievers in and out pretty aggressively. Mm-hmm. And then they have Jack Flaherty going again in game 5, who they assume will probably give them 5 or 6 innings. I assume he will probably give them less if he has to start on 4 days rest, as opposed to getting that extra rest coming into the World Series, because as we've seen Flaherty on regular rest, that velocity has dipped. He also dealt, as he said, with a hamstring issue at the end of game 1. And the velocity was dipping anyway, even before he gave up that homer to Stanton. So if the Dodgers do not clinch things tonight, it does get a little bit more difficult, because then you have Flaherty on regular rest going against Garrett Cole. You've got Yamamoto pitching in game 6, who is tremendous. But then you have to go back to Walker Buehler in game 7, pitching in warmer weather. And I do think the cold weather in New York for his last 2 starts has helped the movement on his pitches, as we discussed yesterday. It either had to be environmental factors or sticky stuff. They check these guys for sticky stuff. It's very likely that the conditions in New York for his past 2 starts have helped Walker Buehler's movement dramatically. It just does not come back randomly. This is movement that he did not show since they removed sticky stuff multiple years ago. His velocity is also down several ticks compared to his career peak. So very likely the cold weather in New York aided Walker Buehler in the past 2 starts. In terms of game 4, we know Luis Gil's pitching. I don't think it's a good matchup for him, because the Dodgers take a lot of pitches and Gil tends to walk a lot of guys. He's also much worse against lefties than he is against righties, and facing Freddie Freeman and Ohtani and Max Muncy in the top 5 hitters of the game. And the Yankees kind of needing him to turn over the Dodgers' order twice means he's likely to struggle against those left-handed bats. They also have Gavin Lux hitting lower in their order. So I bet the under 3.5 strikeouts for Gil. He faced 18 hitters against the Guardians with the Yankees down 3-0. They're not going to let him pitch through trouble tonight. They will bring in the bullpen aggressively if he gets in trouble early. But also, the Dodgers just extremely patient. They've slashed their strikeout rate dramatically over the final 6 weeks of the season. It's about 22.5% for the year. It's closer to 19% over the final 6 weeks. And in the playoffs, they've dropped it even further. So this Dodgers offense just peaked down the stretch once they got fully healthy. But seeing them post one of the lowest strikeout rates in baseball amongst the highest power metrics in baseball, is extremely impressive. The Yankees have been extremely patient too. They're just not putting the bat on the ball. They're taking more pitches in this series. They're working deeper counts, but they're not actually making contact once the Dodgers are elevating fastballs against them. So, and putting them in the zone. They're taking a lot of called strikes. They believe they took 18 called fastballs for strikes yesterday, just overly patient, getting deep counts, but not doing anything with them. So Heel under 3.5 strikeouts tonight. Interested in his over 2.5 walks. Interested in Freeman to walk at plus money. Muncy was about -160. Ohtani was -150. You also have the incentive for the Yankees. Freeman sitting on 5 consecutive World Series games with the homers, homered in each of the 3 games of this series. They walked him after he homered yesterday. I think there's a little bit extra incentive maybe to pitch around Freddie Freeman. So of those 3 players to walk, I think Freeman at plus money definitely interests me more so than betting Heel over 2.5 walks at plus 150, just because I'm not sure how long he's going to be in this game. But I'd rather take Heel under 3.5 strikeouts. And then his outs prop, just to close, his outs prop opened at 12.5, about -150 to the under. Literally by the time I went upstairs and checked it on my phone, to the time I came down here and opened my computer, that outs prop had moved to 11.5 at plus money. I wouldn't bet it at the key number, or I wouldn't bet it below the key number of 12.5, where it was earlier. Now that it's at 11.5, but I do think Heel faces at most 18 batters in this game, and if he struggles, he potentially comes out earlier.
Okay.
I didn't give out my Saturday total. Dodgers plus 125. I made the projection plus 120. And then I made the total 8 with these bullpens getting used aggressively. Also a great under umpire, Doug Eddings. So under 8.5 at -110 or better. And then Dodgers plus 125 or better. Dodgers are starting to get to that number. So I may end up firing on the Dodgers for the first time in the series.
Okay. The walk out thing is interesting with Heel. BJ, you have a little more conviction in Heel's over 2.5 walks.
Yeah. So, I was looking into the Dodgers, and obviously I think the script can be kind of similar to what you saw with Clark Schmidt last night. I don't think that Clark Schmidt was having terrible command. I think he was a little bit afraid of throwing in the zone to some of these Dodgers hitters after Freddie Freeman hit the home run. He was trying to pitch around a lot of guys. He got behind in the counts, and the same can happen with Heel. I mean, Sean mentioned it, 4.57 walk per 9 rate during the regular season. He walked 3 batters against the Guardians in that ALCS game. And he's got great stuff, but his location plus rating for the season is 95. And when I was digging into it, Heel is, especially with his fastball, he's trying to utilize that fastball outside the zone to get hitters to chase. This season, he threw 40%. He threw 47% of his fastballs outside the zone, but he was in the 22nd percentile for getting hitters to actually swing at those fastballs outside the zone. So now you have a Dodgers lineup that has the 5th lowest outside zone swing rate in baseball and the third highest walk rate. It's just a really, really bad recipe. Now the worry here is he doesn't last long. He walks 2 guys and they just yank him, and that's it. And that's it. It is what it is. But at plus 150. I do like the price on Heel to walk 3 or more batters. I'm with Sean. I also like under 8.5 here. The Dodgers bullpen games, when they use their best relievers first and they don't use guys like Landon Knack or, some of their long relief guys, they've been incredibly successful. You can look at Game 6 against the Mets. You can look at Game 4 against the Padres. And I think you'll see them go for the kill shot tonight. And they're going to use their best relievers first. And if they have to use Landon Knack or Honeywell late in the game, they'll do it. But I really think that you're going to see, Vesia, Kopech, if he obviously pitches on back-to-back, Brazier, and Trainin, all of their good relievers up front here to try and go for it. Especially if they get a lead, they're going to do that. So I'm with Sean. I like under 8.5, and I like Heel over 2.5 walks at plus 150.
Right.
Yeah, and I should point out, you'll see an over 8.5 and an under 9.5 for me in the app because FanDuel opened under 9.5. Yeah. The rest of the market opened 8.5 last night. I didn't know where the total would settle. I made it closer to 8. I liked the under. I would have just bet 8.5 under if that's all that opened. But seeing 8.5 and 9 out there, 8.5 and 9 out there, I had to shoot for a middle, not knowing if the total would settle at 9. Because typically when one book opens, I think earlier in the playoffs, we had one book open at 6.5 in Cleveland, and the rest of the market opened at 7.5, or vice versa. One opened 7.5, the rest of the market opened 6.5. and the total ended up settling at 7. Typically, when there's that run difference between multiple books across the betting market, it ends up settling in between them, especially at around a key number of 9. So I'm not sure what happened with FanDuel relative to everybody else, but sticking a projection of 9.5 out there in cold weather, relatively cold weather. It's a bit warmer today than it was yesterday. It should be 60 degrees today. It was 52 yesterday, but a much better under umpire today in Doug Eddings relative to, was it Fletcher yesterday or Carlson? I can't recall who the plate umpire was, who was an absolute disaster. One of the worst playoff umpiring performances in recent memory. Nowhere near as bad as the Marlins umpire from their 94 World Series. But yeah, that high called strike 3 to Torres was pretty bad in the especially considering the situation. And I think we all want the robo umpires at this point. I'm just tired of seeing, humans control high leverage situations when like there's issues that the robot strike zones will have, high curve balls that sort of like break the plane, coming in over the top of the zone and looping down. It's going to have trouble distinguishing those. It may actually call like more high breaking ball strikes that seem visually impossible for hitters to hit, but I'd rather have a system with 99% certainty than roll the dice and give me a random number generator for, 85 to 95% of how good an umpire is going to be that night. I just think the robots would do a better job and have less errors or fewer errors. That was disappointing to see that call with the tying run on deck last night. You got to let the players play it out.
Knowing baseball's glacial pace of fixing things, the year is 2030. We're doing payoff pitch, and Zerillo is handicapping how the robots are at each ballpark. Well, at this ballpark, this is how they let their robot operate.
Yeah. There's going to be calibration issues for sure. You're not wrong. You're not wrong in considering mound heights, the difference in mound heights, the difference in where pitchers release from. I'm not sure, if you have a submarine pitcher, how that impacts it versus a guy who throws straight overhand with the ball coming up and through the zone versus like coming down and into it. There's, tons of testing they're doing in the minor leagues. They also, in the Arizona Fall League, I believe they're testing check swings and a check swing challenge system where the line looked egregious for like how far you're allowed to check before it's actually called a strike. It seems like everything would be overturned and called the ball, but even the fact that they're introducing it, they're starting to do it, is cool because this sport is in need of some technological upgrades. And I mean, how long has Hawkeye been going in tennis for at this point? Like, what are we doing with
2 decades?
Strike balls? It's silly. The tennis got rid of the line judges like in the middle of the pandemic because they're like, this is unnecessary and this is the time to actually do it. So I guess they still have problems on clay courts. So I don't know if that impacts baseball in any way, like on turf versus grass or otherwise. But yeah, I think it's time for technology to influence the sport, considering all we do is monitor this sport with technology. I mean, we have thousands of cameras monitoring 10,000 data points per play, right, for Baseball Savant and StatCast. So we can't put one more out there to call balls and strikes.
Yeah, I just want to see how the hustle the robot has for a play at the plate. Like, how fast does it back up?
I'd like them to have overturned the 2 plays at the plate that went for outs yesterday, considering I had over 7.5 and over 8, and 2 runs gunned down at the plate in separate instances where it seemed like both. One was, I'm pretty sure, blocking. Torito, I'm pretty sure, blocked. Was it Edmund who slid in? And then Stanton is just the slowest man alive. So
yeah,
that was painful to watch.
Just one last thing on this game and this series. If this is the last game, we could very well be back here tomorrow for a game 5. Aaron Judge to homer tonight is plus 240. He is the favorite. Just to hit one home run in the series, his price is at minus 140, which is the shortest number on the board. Aaron Judge is going to do something here, right, in this series, or he is going to hear it all off season.
Yeah, live bet it after the Yankees fall down 4-0 tonight, or maybe like 6-0 in the 8th inning. When it looks like he's coming up for his final plate appearance, that's the time to do it. The A-Rod special. If you're old enough, you can remember that A-Rod was maligned for never hitting home runs until the game was out of reach. It was like a running joke that A-Rod was the least clutch guy until the Yankees won the World Series with him. it was a running joke that he was the least clutch guy and he would only ever homer when the Yankees were up big or down big. So yeah, Judge to homer tonight once this game is out of reach either way. It's the joke, but I feel like it's also going to happen. Plus 240 is not a number I want to take, but maybe if you get a plus, 800 live going into his final plate appearance, take a poke. Couldn't hurt you.
Play.
It seems like it's one of those jokes that everybody's making. It seems like it's going to come true, though.
I just did this right now. Ohtani is clearly hurt, by the way. I think we should also mention that. Like, his shoulder is very clearly hurt. He's minus 400 not to homer. Judge is about minus 300 not to homer. Same game parlay minus 150. Then once Judge comes up in that moment, you hedge and you get the 8-1 on his homer, and boom, there you go.
Yeah, Ohtani was like grabbing his shoulder even while he was
he's holding it in place, like when he's running back. I'm like, there's no way.
Yeah. He jogged out for introductions with his arm in a sling, right?
Yeah.
It's a little weird that they're letting him play if the shoulder
Dave Roberts
is an issue.
Yeah, Dave Roberts said, basically 50% of him is better than anybody else we got. So, he's going to play, and we're paying him $70 million, so we might as well just put him out there. So,
yeah, it makes me a little bit more interested in his walks prop because maybe in his mind, that's the better way for him to get on base and then produce for his teammates. It is minus 150, though. It hasn't been that high in this series. It's Muncy is typically in that territory. Muncy is like minus 150 to minus 160. Ohtani is usually closer to like minus 120 to minus 130 to walk, I feel like. So that seems a little bit high and overjuiced. The Yankees, Schmidt refused to challenge him. I had the Yankees radio on because I was in the car for part of the game while Ohtani was up. And Schmidt started him off with like a 5-pitch walk, I believe, to start the game. And then he came up again and they started him 3-0 or 2-0. And Susan Waldman's like, his shoulder's injured. Just throw a pitch in the zone and see if he can hit it. I'm like, 100%. Like, how do you not challenge him and make him try to hit the baseball? So while I kind of like Ohtani to walk because it seems like for him, that might be the better way of getting on base. I don't know how the Yankees don't just throw him strikes tonight. Like, just make him hit the baseball and see if he can actually do anything with it. See if it hurts his shoulder. Like, maybe the recoil off the bat, hurts his shoulder and gets him out of the game. So, yeah, make him do something. Don't give him free passes and let Freeman hit 2-run bombs.
My mind is working here, and I just did this, and I'll probably track it in the app just for fun. Ohtani not to homer and not to steal a base. You parlay those together, that's minus 175. He's minus 400 each not to homer and not to steal a base with his injured shoulder.
I'm happy.
If he's injured, I don't think he's going to hit one out, and unless he gets a pass ball stolen base, I don't think he's going to be attempting to steal a base with that shoulder.
I'm happy Sean Zerillo is still with us because when Sterling called that fly ball to left, he didn't swerve off the road. Thinking that ball was going to get out. It wasn't even close. I mean, if you listen to the radio call, you got to go off of what Sterling's saying. Anyway.
Ohtani under 1.5 is minus 140 tonight. Under 1.5 total bases. That's interesting. I mean, obviously he can leg out a double if he hits something down the line. And you're paying much more juice into his under than you typically would, I would imagine. I would have to go back to earlier in the series. He was probably about a pick 'em over under 1.5. I feel like the stars are usually a pick 'em. But with the shoulder, I don't know if he actually made contact with made hard contact last night. I'd almost want to go back and watch his swings yesterday to see if he even hit a hard hit foul ball. That'd be the other prop lane I'd have though, is Ohtani under total bases, or I think BJ may even be more on point with no homer minus 400. That doesn't seem like a bad price.
Okay, gents, very good. If the Yankees do win tonight, we will have a podcast tomorrow morning, and Sean Zerillo will have opening pitch, which is available now for Game 4 in the Action Network app, actionnetwork.com. And again, we're with you Wednesday if there's a game. And then if the Yankees somehow extend it again and they go to a Game 6, we'll be back here on Friday morning for Game 6 of the World Series. For BJ Cunningham, Sean Zerillo, Brendan Glasheen, this is it. Thanks for tuning in to Payoff Pitch all season long here on the Action Network podcast. Payoff Pitch under the Action Network podcast umbrella. And we'll talk to you again tomorrow if we have ourselves a Game 5. Enjoy.